Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Live, Love, and Marry Wiser, where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding. And I promise you that we pray, we plan, and we prepare every episode for you to access wisdom for your life and relationships through all of our hosts, our guests who join us weekly. Today, we have a special guest who's going to share some tools and tips on how to date safely. So I am excited about that. Onita, how are you?
I am super excited. I pulled some notes out of her books, and I'm just really excited. I even sent my daughter the link, who's away in college, saying, "Listen, I know y'all think this is just for the older single ladies, but I need you to, or married for, I need you to tune in. I need you to share it with all your girlfriends
Mm-hmm.
because there's some really good information that you need tonight." So I'm very excited.
Good. I love that. Well, I'm going to just take a moment to remind you all that Pray It Forward, the book, has been released and it is doing well. You all have been supportive, but if you haven't bought the book yet, you can go to our, why don't I have that link in here? asinglemission.com/books, and you can purchase the ebook or the paperback. We had a fantastic time. Onita scheduled a book signing in Richmond last week, and that went really well. But we also have every morning Pray It Forward live at 6 a.m. and noon. Noon will be the last time tomorrow. But for 31 days, we have been fasting and praying together, a community of women. And we do our battle charges every morning at 6 a.m. And you can find those on our on this YouTube channel that you are on right now. There's a playlist, Pray It Forward Live, and those are just God's direction for us as we intercede and pray and fast for our beloved. So check that out, and when you get a chance. So, Onita, one of your favorite times.
Oh, yeah.
Low down on the update. So we're talking about what Lorraine is doing on her dating journey. Well, Lorraine, as you all know, has been praying for her future husband, who she does not know. And she is, I'm on day 30. This is day 30 of our fast, and we're going to continue to intercede through tomorrow. And then we start our praise portion, which is 31 days of praise. And we're just going to be thanking God for the plan that he has that I don't see yet, but I am trusting in faith that he is preparing that person for me as he is preparing me for that person. We talked about a couple of days ago, we talked about the 4 agreements from a biblical perspective. Be impeccable with your words. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And of the 30 things that I've preached about, essentially, in the last month, that's the one I really am going to try to hold on to and really implement in my life, because you can't do all 30 things. There's so many different issues that we talked about. But in preparation for this person, I want to make those adjustments so that I am more of the woman that God wants me to be, and therefore the woman that will be right for him when he happens.
Amen.
So
Amen. Well, you're gonna be ready, honey. You're gonna be ready. He doesn't even understand all the refining he's going through right now because the Holy Spirit's working on him too.
yeah. So I'm happy about that. Well, since we are on this dating journey, we want to learn a little bit more about how to do that safely, both in person and online. And so today I am so excited to welcome my friend and co-author, Lori Morrison. She's a private investigator, and I think that is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Welcome, Lori.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
Awesome.
So Lori and I met in the coaching group that I was joining to write the book, and so she was a part of that whole process, cheering me on, supporting. She also has some books. She actually has 3 books. Hey, Susan, nice to see you. uh, she greeted you as well. Susan is our #1 fan.
Mhm.
So, Lori, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about, what you do and how you became a private investigator. But I'm going to start off with your books, and then we'll dive into that. So you can just go ahead and start there.
This was my first book. I really felt like, especially women of faith, we live in fear sometimes. The world feels like it's getting out of control. There are just, the news bombards us constantly with terrible things that are happening. And so I wanted to explore being safer and taking these tips, but from a perspective of using them to empower us and
Mm-hmm.
keep us from living a life of fear, because that's not what God has for us.
Amen.
So that was really the impetus behind this first book. And it is more of a personal safety. There's 10 different chapters, and I talk about safety during dating and in relationships, when you're shopping, traveling, in your home, just all the different places we find ourselves. And sometimes we can, kind of be caught off guard a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
maybe not be paying as much attention as we should. And so I just wanted to equip women and even some men that if you know these things, if you know quick and easy things you can do to keep yourself safer, then that fear won't paralyze you, and you'll be able to just live life the way God wants you to.
Oh, I love that. I love that. The next one is in,
Yeah, this
in God We Trust. Everyone else gets a backdrop.
Ah, I love it.
yeah, that title popped into my head really before the idea for the book had fully formed. But kind of piggybacking off of what I had written in the first book, I thought part of the reason that we're not always as safe as maybe we could be or should be is because we trust too easily.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, especially people of faith, because we know what our intentions are for people, they're for good. And we tend to think that other people have those same intentions.
Right.
And so, I wanted to let people know that sometimes we can be a little naive. We can think that everyone is just out to be good to everybody, and so we hand over our trust
Mm-hmm.
without really thinking about it as the precious gift that it is.
Yeah.
And so you hold on to that trust until you're able to see that someone deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
I walk through in the book, what does a trustworthy person look like? Or what does an untrustworthy person look like? What kind of actions do they exhibit?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, scam artists, and we'll talk a little bit later about romance scams since we've got Valentine's Day coming up here soon.
Uh-huh.
But people that are doing those things, they have, I hate to say a playbook, but the way they do things is so similar, you would almost think they do. And
Yeah.
so when we know what to look for, when we know that even when they're putting on a good front, everybody's true nature is going to leak out in certain
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
situations. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we look for those things, look for the leaks, because
Mm-hmm.
that's going to tell you who that person truly, truly is.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. I think that some of that was resonating with Onita. What you got, Onita?
Girl, because I'm sitting here and just thinking, because right now I have a college age student with child and student, and particularly what fears I have in general, social media. I'm out there too. At one point, I was like, I've never posted, and then we lived away, and that's the only way I stayed in contact with everybody, right? Posting and updating pictures. But particularly because they're not even paying for Tinder or nothing. They're meeting people on Snapchat and Instagram and automatically, you know, believing this person is who they are. And so my fear is, even with that, maybe you have some tips on that, that the trust that people are giving so quickly to people online just based on the profile pictures that they post, and kind of ways to combat that. Because I've said, for instance, like one of her friends was one day confided in me, and she was just like, oh, but feeling so sad about the guy not responding. And I said, you've never met him. He states away. Like, why does he have so much importance right now? Because you don't even know if this person is really who they say they are. I mean, I know trafficking and all of that stuff, catfishing is a whole nother level of this, but it's people are just not guarded anymore with sharing all of their information and business with complete strangers online. So that's a big concern for me as a mom, as she's away, kind of like, who are you talking to and who are you trusting? Because one of my jobs during the day too is I do background investigations. So I'm the processor. I'm not the one in there. I'm the one processing, submitting it. So when it comes back in their decline, I'm always like, what happened? Why was it declined? So
Well, I know that is something that Lori's going to share some tips on as we get further in. I just want to share her last book, the most recent one that she wrote while we were in the group together, Reclaiming Sanctuary. What's this about, Lori?
Well, I read a fascinating statistic about how, and I believe this was from 2022, less than a third of the people that were reached out to in this particular survey said that they had a great deal or even kind of an average amount of trust in pastors and churches.
Wow.
Exactly. I was flabbergasted. And I thought, wow, when we talk about declining attendance, declining numbers of membership, declining baptisms, just all the different things that we look at to see if we're effectively spreading the gospel. And I thought, okay, we've done some of this to ourselves. We used to be the place that people in the community would go when they had troubles, when they needed help. And we're not positioning ourselves anymore as being people who have earned the right to speak into people's lives, because they just don't trust us as much as they used to.
Wow.
And so I wanted to develop a training guide for churches, because there's no one size fits all answer to this. But I thought most of the training that I'm seeing out there, whether it's online or in books, it's from a perspective, it's typically from a male perspective. So I felt like I had some fresh insights to bring there. But it's also almost exclusively physical safety. And that is super, super important. And I do go over that. But one of the things where I think we've lost trust is keeping people emotionally safe, keeping them safe from bullying, from maybe being talked down to, not feeling accepted, not being pulled into community, and keeping people spiritually safe. Do our church leaders have a really good grasp on what our small group leaders, what our children's leaders and our youth leaders, what they're really teaching? And so I just really felt the need to address a kind of more holistic approach, for lack of a better way to say that, to safety. Because even if I feel like I can walk into your church and nothing will harm my body, is somebody going to say something that wounds my spirit?
Yes.
Because I may walk out and never come back if that happens.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you all, those are the books. You should get them on Amazon. I actually got Reclaiming Sanctuary, and I'm going to get the other ones too. But our church is in the process of trying to implement some safety standards.
Good.
The process has been long based on what I've heard, but I was hoping that, and I am still hoping that the book, I gave it to the person who has been charged, at least initially, with the children's ministry aspect, and
Right.
and she's totally on board, but it's just kind of bringing everybody else along. So I just wanted to share that. Now, Lori, if you want to just tell us a little bit about you, how you became a private investigator, why, what has triggered this kind of passion for these particular topics of safety, and then we'll jump right into the conversation.
Oh, awesome. Well, I've always been the type of person that loved mysteries and puzzles and figuring things out, and just kind of semi early on developed a real passion for true crime stories, because I just kept thinking, why do these people think that it's okay for them to do these things? And so it began as kind of that psychological interest. So I was always interested in the law. My first job out of college was in a probation department. Did a few other things as I was raising my girls. Went back to school, got my credentials as a paralegal, and was actually working in a domestic violence court for a time, and just could really, really see some of the dangers, kind of the hidden dangers that that people needed to be aware of, the patterns. So a lot of generational patterns, and wanting to help people break those. And then I took some time as a corporate paralegal, because it pays way better than the criminal area, and my girls wanted to go to college. So, but while I was there had been a story locally where I was living, about a young woman in her early 20s, I believe, nursing student, and she had been abducted, was a missing person for, I believe, 2 or 3 years. And then her body was found. She'd been sexually assaulted, murdered. And it really captured my attention, because she was close to the same age as my oldest daughter, and they looked a bit alike. And I thought, if that happened to my child, who would help me? Because this case had gone cold. Law enforcement was struggling to get it solved. And then the family hired an investigator, and it was a female investigator. And I was just fascinated with that, because you don't see that very often. You are more and more, which is great.
Yeah.
But the news was doing a story about her and her influence on the case. And it was just one of those God things. I suddenly thought, I'm going to message her and tell her I would like to help. Because that's normal, right? I thought, okay, so
Exactly.
I found her online and just sent her a message. I said, hey, I have this legal background, so if I can just help organize case files, go through documents, whatever. And so I sent my little message off and thought, she is going to think I am a crazy person who just does this. But she reached out to me. We met, had lunch, hit it off really well. And so it just started like that. And that's really all I thought I was going to ever do. And then one day she said, you could do this. And that had never occurred to me, because becoming a private eye was not on my bucket list, never had been. But I thought about it, and I thought, if that gives me more tools to help and serve others, I'm going to go for that. And so got my license, got some more experience, went out on my own a few years later. And so it's interesting to look back, because kind of in the interim before a lot of that, I was actually on staff at a church. And so I could see how God had taken what seemed like very, very different life experiences, work experiences, and has prepared me for what I'm doing now. And that's training churches to develop their own safety protocols that fit their church.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, just to get started with the whole, we're talking about dating, safety, stalking, even trafficking today.
Yeah.
These things are pervasive, and they are, and the face of that is changing in some respects, so that we are not recognizing, especially trafficking, we're not recognizing it as trafficking in the way that we traditionally see it on TV or in movies. So can you talk a little bit about just your experience with, issues of dating safety and stalking and trafficking, and and just your knowledge about that and how you have begun to, or how you've proceeded in just helping people to see different ways. And then we're going to actually go into some detail of what things we should do, red flags, those things. But just in general, like, what is the conversations that you're having about this, and how are you helping particularly women, but I know these things happen to young men too, to approach this topic of dating and safety and how it can escalate to stalking and even trafficking.
Well, I think one of the best things is what you guys are doing right now is you're just bringing it up, you're putting it out in front of people, because awareness really, really is huge. Because like you said, things are changing. And so sometimes, and again, going back to those of us women of faith, we can be a little naive sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I've read studies where people have asked criminals, do you have kind of a preferred type of victim? And a lot of them will say, oh yeah, people of faith.
Wow.
And, yeah, exactly. People are like, well, why? And they said, well, for one thing, they can be kind of naive, so they don't always catch on to what I'm doing. And even if they do figure it out, all they want to do is forgive me. So we'll talk a little bit about that later, I hope, too, the whole idea of forgiveness. I'm not going to say there's ever a time when it's inappropriate, but there are ways to apply it that are more appropriate and more safe.
I definitely want you to talk about that at the appropriate time.
But when you talk about stalking and dating, a lot of people think that a stalker is this person that you barely know, or maybe you don't know, and somehow they've fixated on you. That does happen. But I think some of the most prevalent kinds of stalking is when you're trying to end a relationship that somebody else doesn't want to end. And that can be a relationship that's lasted 6 months. That can be a relationship that lasted your first date and you don't want a second one, and they do. And so one thing that is super simple that people can do is when you're meeting new people, you need to give them a different number than your actual cell phone number that your friends and family have. You can get a Google number. Google Voice is an app, and they're free.
Bringing out the pad and paper.
That's right. And you get to choose your number. So you can pick an area code, well, as long as that number is not taken, but you can pick an area code that doesn't match your physical location. Ooh. And so that can be very helpful if people are trying to, figure out where they think you might be. So I use Google phone numbers when I'm talking to people that I may not want to have ever call me back. Like if I'm doing an interview on somebody that's involved with a case. So I'm sure there's other apps. I just happen to use Google Voice. You can also text with it. So that is very, very handy. And sometimes you meet someone and you don't have any intention of ever really having any kind of contact with them. But they push. Maybe you're at a party or some sort of gathering and they want your number so bad and they just won't take no for an answer. So what I tell people to do is memorize your local police's non-emergency phone number and give that to them. So when they try to give you a call and the police department answers, they're going to get the message that you don't play. You know how to keep yourself safe and you don't want to talk to them.
I'm loving these tips. I hope my daughter really is watching.
Lori, hold on one second. Okay. All right. Someone said they couldn't hear. Now they say they can't hear. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. I don't want anybody missing any of these points. Okay.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
I say a lot of you I know have already heard tips like don't let somebody give you a drink. You go get your own drink. You don't want to give them any opportunity to put something in it. Don't leave your drink unattended. Things like that. Those are common sense, but when we get caught up in the middle of things, we can forget those.
Yes.
So, make sure you're going on a date or whatever. Just run through your little checklist. Hey, here's the things I need to be keeping in mind as I'm going about my evening. Always meet in a public place. Don't tell them your address. They don't need to know that. They don't need, like I said, your normal phone number. Give them that Google Voice number. They don't need your email. You need, again, to establish that they're a trustworthy person before you just hand over this very valuable information.
Yes.
And then if someone does try to pursue you and you're not interested in being pursued, I know it's very tempting to think, I will logically explain to this person that I don't want to be called or texted or emailed or have them show up at work.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to remember that the things that these people doing are logical to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you trying to introduce your logic is not going to resonate with them. So if you have somebody that you just don't want to talk to, don't answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so cringy. We feel rude. We were brought up better than that. But trust me, if you let the phone ring 50 times, and you just can't take it anymore and you feel bad and you think, oh, I'll logically explain this to this person and I'll answer that phone. All you've done is train them. You've taught them that you will pick up the 51st time.
Mm-hmm.
And they will just start again. And those first 50 where you don't answer won't even bother them. They're getting to that magic 51.
Yeah, it's just like the spam robocall is the same thing. Once they know they got a human, that's it. Like they may even say dial 9 to be taken off this list. No, you just have confirmed a human owns this number, so they're just now going to keep calling you back.
Yep. And you don't need to give them fair warning that you're going to contact police or anything. Just do it.
Yeah.
You don't owe these folks
I love
anything.
I love that. I think that, Lori, I need to stop just there to really highlight that. I need you to, because there, especially women, not even just women of faith, but just women, we're taught that we have to be polite, we have to be respectful, we have to, be kind, and it's rude and mean. If I don't want to have anything to do with you and you have not accepted that, then it is not unchristian for me to say, I have told you, and that, like, I'm just gonna do the thing. It's like you said, you don't need to give fair warning. Their warning was after you told them you didn't want to see them anymore the first time, and then they kept bothering you. They've already had their warning.
Yes. And look at it this way. This drives me crazy in popular culture, in so-called romance novels or rom-com movies or whatever, where the man just keeps pursuing, and somehow that is seen as, she'll eventually know that my love is true.
Yeah.
No, I am eventually, hopefully really soon, going to realize that you're not the type of person that respects boundaries.
Yeah.
And so that person that just keeps pursuing you, don't let them wear you down. That is not love. That's control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
And I tell people all the time, teach this to your children, but teach it to yourself and your older girls. Make a fuss. We also don't want to make a fuss. If someone is making you feel very uncomfortable, you feel unsafe, yell, scream, say, this man won't leave me alone, help. And unfortunately, because people tend to be very people-y, help doesn't always get attention. Yell fire if you have to, because if they think it's going to hurt them, then they start. You do what you have to do. And one thing I want to mention before I forget it, and I highlight this in my book, there is a wonderful personal safety app, and I'm sure there's others. So if you find one you like better, that's great. I'm not making any money promoting this. It's called Watch Over Me, and it's a free app. Download it onto your phone. You can take pictures of where you are, and you can designate certain people who can see those. So your best girlfriend's sister or whoever, they can find out where you are, and you can set certain time limits that you have to check in with the app. And if you don't, it will notify these people that you've said, these are my safe people, and it will say, hey, she's not checked in. Then they will be given your location and those pictures. So you can kind of surreptitiously take a picture of your date so they know what he looks like. So
Awesome.
how cool is that? We need to harness the technology that's out there.
Yes.
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 Yes. I
Yes.
wanted to say, first of all, Lord, thank God you're on here tonight because sheesh, you just gave me another app. I was gonna say I just download for because I also do. I have my own real estate firm, and some realtors we were sharing an app called Forewarn, 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 because you sometimes we get people calling in on ads that are want to see a house, but
Mhm.
there's horror stories. Like if you want to be a realtor, I won't say go out and look at it, but there are horror stories of people
Yeah.
who have come to
Yes.
open houses just to harm the realtor.
Yeah.
I had a guy years ago. I listed a home and put it in the magazine because that was the thing to do. And he kept calling like he wanted to buy a house, but then he'd ask me other questions. And one of the things he actually said, "Oh, so what church do you go to?" Oh yeah, I mean, he said he was wheelchair bound. He would love to if he can get a ride to my church one day and what side of town. And he kept. And my husband by like call 3, he said if he's not asking about the house, he needs to stop calling. So then finally, my husband got on the phone and said, "Stop calling her. If this is
Mhm.
not about a house or whatever." He shut it down. But I'm just saying, man, that was
Mhm. Yeah.
2006 or 7. He
Yeah.
was trying to bring game then. It went from I'm calling about your house ad to oh, which church do you attend? Oh man, I wish I had a ride to get there. But Forewarn's the app that literally you can put the person's name in, so you'll know one if this person. It basically tells you if they're a criminal, like if they got any charges, anything out there on them. You'll know because again, like I said, you're going off of this person's social media post and who they say they are. You have no idea who they are at all. The other thing is years ago, one of my kids, because again, we're talking about church, being in church, depending on where you are, a lot of us are very huggy, and your kids were like, "Oh, hug so and so." And I remember my middle daughter at the time, she would just thought she's introverted and shy. She would stiff up and not hug. And then one day, a friend of mine who's a clinical social worker as well, she said, "No, don't ever force her out of her comfort to hug somebody." She's
Mhm.
like, "She don't want to do that. It's her prerogative." And then she said, "It's actually even better that you have them not get used to, even in church, everybody hugging on them and thinking it's okay because it's not. Not everybody who comes to church is
Mhm.
coming with this type of mentality, like all about Christian and love." And she was like, and so she said that I've thought about it, like the horrors of the fact that
Yes.
things that later happened in church that it didn't start
Mhm.
with this girl being 14 trusting everybody. She might have been 3 or 4, and mom and dad forced her always to hug elder so and so or deacon so and so. And so we started saying, okay, a handshake will do, or just saying hi, happy Sabbath, but you don't have to hug. And literally, she loved us saying that because she would actually stiff arm people and she'd go, "It's my body. It's my body." My mom
Good
would say,
for her.
yeah,
I
and it was
love that.
and so people weak to the point, like at first some put on their clothes, be a little offended, but then they realize you're right. They go, you know what? You're right. It is your body. You don't have to hug me. Happy Sabbath. And I just love that. I mean, I got the lesson from her, but that the person told me that because you really have to set these boundaries
Mhm.
and say it's my body and not be afraid to establish that space in there to protect
Yeah.
yourself and to help plant these seeds earlier on so that they will know it's okay to yell if somebody's in your space that you don't. You're saying move back up, back up. So I was glad you were reaffirming some stuff. My daughter's listening. She told me she's watching it, and she's like, "I know you're in your brain just going, I told you so, I told you so." Because some things I have told her, like location devices set on is left on at all times for her sharing with us.
Yes.
I'm like, I know you're in college. You may decide to go to a party, whatever. I don't care. Tell me. Like you're there. I'm assuming I'm trusting you to make safe choices, but tell me this is where
Mhm.
you're going. And she said,
Yeah.
I mean, her and her friends are all in a group. They all share location. They
Good.
have safe words. They have check-in points. And they don't like one of the friends went on a date with a guy. He was a friend of a friend, but still, he didn't know they were in another car behind him the whole time. Because they were just like, we don't know this guy. We're gonna stay nearby. We're gonna make sure
Mhm.
that they're going where they're going. And I even say too, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, and Lori, you can speak more to this, definitely public place.
Mhm.
We don't need to go out at night. I need the sun up. I need to be a lot of people. I
Yes.
need to be able to see who you see your intentions. We don't need to go to the movie. I need to be somewhere where we can talk and it's a
Mhm.
public place. I need to scream, run, or whatever. And one last thing, I remember these girls. It might have been during the pandemic because so much stuff came out, but they created a nail polish that you can stick your finger in your drink and it can tell you if somebody had roofed it or whatever. Do people say that word anymore? Am I dating myself or saying
No. That is
Okay.
still a thing. And those kind of products are great. They can't detect everything
Yeah.
because the bad guys are almost always one step ahead of us.
Yeah.
We're almost always being reactive to the crazy stuff they come up with.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that you mentioned made me think of something, definitely being able to tell somebody, I don't want to be hugged. But
Mhm.
when people ask you questions, and I know that's how you get to know people in a dating scenario, but again, if they ask you questions that maybe it's a little too early to be asking that,
Mm-hmm.
just because somebody asks you something does not mean they have the right to have that information.
Right.
Yes.
It's okay to say that's something that I'm just not ready to talk about yet.
Mm-hmm.
People will push you as far as they think they can.
Yeah.
And so if you just set that boundary, and again, if they keep trying to cross that boundary, that tells you a lot about that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the little girl that, nope, we're not going to hug.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a guest I had on my podcast. He was a pastor. His dad had been a pastor. His dad had always been his hero. And when he was in his, I think, mid-20s, one of his sisters came to him and said, I need you to know that dad molested me when we were younger.
Mm.
And of course, this guy's devastated. But the best thing he did was he said, I believe you. And come to find out that his dad, the pastor, had molested children from the church as well. Many,
Wow.
many kids. And one of the things they do, a lot of us call it grooming. Grooming
Mhm.
is a little separate from what I'm getting ready to talk about. This is testing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, criminals don't like a challenge. They're not looking for the hardest person to convince
Mm-hmm.
to fall under their spell just so they can feel like they're really good at this. They want people that are easy to take advantage of.
Mhm.
And so this guy would test not only the kids, but the parents.
Mhm.
So I'm having a conversation with you at church, and I am putting my hands on your young daughter's shoulder and kind of pulling her close to me. Is she okay with that? More importantly, are the parents okay with that?
Mm.
So parents, don't be afraid to kind of pull your child back to you, and just say, hey, that's a safety thing we do. So
Yeah.
you've let him know, or her, that does happen, but you've let that person know
Yeah.
that we're paying attention.
Right.
Yes.
And
Right.
more than likely, they're going to move on. I mean, if I'm breaking into a house, am I going to go to the one that has lots of lights? It has all the signs. Hey, I've got a security system. I can see the cameras up. Or am I going to walk up to one where the front door is wide open?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to take your personal safety the same way.
Yes.
Wow.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the red flags? Maybe not even that this person might be a stalker, but maybe so, that when you're dating, maybe you're starting off, or even sometimes people are great at the beginning, but then things go south. Some of the red flags that people should be looking out for and taking note of that maybe people typically don't, but that are indicator that this person is abusive or dangerous or something like that.
Well, one of the first ones we've already talked about is boundaries. If that person is constantly trying to cross boundaries, they've got some serious control issues.
Mm-hmm.
So while they might not be physically violent, they're probably not a real emotionally healthy person.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they won't listen to your no, then that's a big red flag for me.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is, we live in an unbelievably open society. You can find out so much about people very easily by looking on their social media profiles,
Mm-hmm.
just Googling their name, which you do have to be careful. If you've got a common name, you might not
Right.
certain that you're talking about the exact right person, but
Mhm.
look them up, find out what you can find out about them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if what they're saying to you doesn't match what you're finding,
Mm.
Mhm.
that's a red flag too. Are you seeing kind of a spotty work history? where they really talk about being that stand-up man that wants to provide for his woman and is very stable. Now, I'm not saying they can't be changed in jobs. Maybe they're climbing the ladder.
Mhm.
Maybe their company had a downturn, not their fault. But when this is a wonderful quote, I wish I could claim it for myself, but some people see red flag after red flag after red flag and thinks that means that there's a parade. No, there's not. There's no parade. There's never a parade.
Come on, Lori.
Right.
Multiple red flags generally means run far, run fast.
I never heard that one, but I'm giving you
Exactly.
all the credit for that.
Another thing, especially for women of faith, some people say, "Oh, I've just got this feeling in my gut." Listen to that, because for people of faith, I believe that's one of the ways that the Holy Spirit speaks to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, if the Holy Spirit's telling you this guy is a jerk, I would listen to that real heavily.
I would
Yeah.
too.
And listen to your family and your friends.
Mm,
They know you better than anybody else.
right.
They want the best for you.
Mhm.
And so why would they tell you, I have some reservations about this guy, except that they're trying to protect you?
Right.
Obviously, if his ex-girlfriend comes flying in and says he's a terrible guy, well, maybe she wants him back. Maybe it wasn't her idea to become the ex.
Mhm.
And so you have to weigh where you're getting your information. But if
Yeah.
your dearest friends, and yes, your moms, people that love you, if they are seeing things that you're not seeing, you really do need to listen to them.
Mhm.
And consistency. Is this person the same person day in and day out? And we all have bad days. I get that. But if this person is radically different because of a small circumstance, it's really thrown them. They anger very quickly. They become very jealous over something that's just minor.
Mhm.
Those kind of things can be very problematic because, again, a lot of that can be about control.
Right.
And I don't know about you ladies. I'm guessing you're like me. I don't like it when people try to control what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling.
No.
And so if that person just doesn't want to let you be who you are, they don't want to let you be what God created you to be. That's huge.
Mhm.
And they want to know everything. Okay, who you going with? Who are you going? When are you getting back? What are you doing? Why are you with them again? What are they saying? Or in the relationship, all their past relationships, they're constantly blaming the other person.
Yes.
I'm not with that person because, they were the problem. They were the problem. They were the problem. Every single relationship, the ex was the problem. Yeah, that's a red flag.
Or the boss was the problem. Or
Yeah,
I could have been a star, but my coach was the problem. Or whatever. Yeah, if they're unwilling to take any ownership for what's gone wrong in their lives, because we all have something that's gone wrong in our lives. Nobody's immune to that. If they don't ever exhibit any kind of thought that maybe it was me. So, okay, you've got 10 ex-girlfriends. Well, you're the only constant in that equation. So, just maybe it's you.
Right.
Just maybe.
Just
I've
maybe.
seen too where phrases now that come up a lot more too, love bombing. And particularly my daughter's even said she's had friends, she's in school where people that they're talking again through Snapchat, which I had a rule when we were home. It's you need to be texting. I should be able to pick it up and see it. I don't like anything that's disappearing in 24 hours. I don't trust it. But what was he saying? But particularly these boys who quickly, they're not even knowing each other. They want to say I love you. It's like they're using the I love you to let your guard down, like very early on now, or love bombing, and later to where she immediately gets just like, I unfriend those people immediately because she's like, you don't know me. You don't even know my middle name, my favorite color. But that's a tactic that they're using nowadays to actually gain trust. And I'm just like, wow, it's a whole different thing. Or overly confided, or trying almost like you're the therapist, where they're sharing so much, like I'm sharing so much of me. I'm being very vulnerable, and that to me is kind of like unstable too. Like, why are you saying I'm not your therapist, but why are you telling this much stuff this fast
Yeah.
up front to kind of show? See,
Right.
I'm open book. I'm like, nah.
Right. No, because no one needs to be that open at the beginning of the relationship. You
Hmm.
have to learn how to progressively reveal
Yes.
in the time frame that is suitable. Now, everyone, you can't say like in 2 weeks you should share this, in 5 months you should share that,
Right.
but the progression of the relationship kind of tells you what is it appropriate to share at this point. And it
Hmm.
also your comfort level with that person, your trust of that person, how have they demonstrated their commitment to you and the relationship, and in this part of the relationship, all determines that. But when you start, kind of vomiting all of your past traumas and all these bad situations and relationships all in, week one or date one, it's like, never mind, dude. Yeah,
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And something else is isolation. If
Mm,
they are trying, you spend too much time with your girlfriends, or you have to go see your family again this weekend.
mhm.
Baby, we can't get a relationship going if we don't spend time together. It's you and me against the world kind of thing. And that kind of brings trafficking up a little bit,
Okay.
Yes.
because a lot of us tend to think that trafficking is one of two things. It's women from overseas who are lured here with the promise of, a legitimate job, but then it turns in to being sexual servitude. Or we think of the windowless, what I call the kidnapper vans, that are screeching around our cities, and they fling open the doors, they grab you and pull you in, and never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I won't say that that never, ever, ever happens, but something that's much more likely is somebody wants to be your boyfriend. And so they do try to forge that bond really, really quickly, like we were talking about. They do try to isolate you, oh, don't listen to your parents. They are too strict. They're too this, they're too that, whatever. You and I together, we can really live the life we're meant to live. And so you hook up with this guy, and then he's telling you how much he loves you. Oh man, we got bills to pay, baby. So if you'll just do this,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it starts. Then he's not your boyfriend anymore, he's your pimp. He's your trafficker.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But he's lured you in
Right.
because you're looking for a relationship, and that's what he's promising you, but that's not what you end up giving. Then he's wanting you to pull your friends in. Well,
Yep.
introduce me to so and so.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge. Young girls bringing other young girls that they know at school, at church, bringing them into the trafficking situation that they themselves have gotten caught up in. That is one of the fastest growing methods that these traffickers get new girls.
Wow.
So,
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. That happened a few years ago. At a church in Maryland where
mhm.
he used to friend. The girl was, she noticed her friend was coming more withdrawn because she's dating this guy. And oh, I love him, you should meet him. And it just happened one day her mom was home and her mom said, I'm about to run out or something, go to work or whatever. Her mom said, don't let nobody in. And she said, okay, while I'm away. She said, oh, I won't, mom. Well, the friend happened to call and said, oh, I want you to meet my boyfriend. We're going to come by. And it's her best friend. So she's like, okay. TV was on. I think she had put some ramen or something in the microwave to cook, and so where it looks like a situation where she wasn't going anywhere. And the friend said, "Oh, we'll come outside. I want you to meet the boyfriend." And sure, she went outside, and he took her, and
Mm.
mom didn't know because there was no trace of the friend being there. So they put out a mystic because the mom came home like my door is open, the TV's on, she put food in the fridge. She's definitely something's happened to her. Because of the quickness, this happened in Baltimore, Maryland, because of everybody calling and they put out the Amber Alert and everything. They didn't get her out, but they were about to ship her out. They literally found her in an abandoned building near Baltimore Harbor, like near trying to get her to the port. They had her in one of the dog kennel cages tied
Mm.
up, but they were going to get her out. And he used her best friend. They didn't see her best friend no more after that. But again, the best friend knew she was a church girl. The best friend didn't go to church, but kind of knew She was very trusting, and was on the phone with her when her mom said, "I'm leaving.
Mm.
Don't let nobody, come home." So kind of knew. And I just remember, because another friend of mine who has a girls empowerment group called Wings Beleza, she was sharing the story with the girls there, because honestly, they all were looking like, this will never happen to us. Like, we
Mhm.
don't know anybody. And some of those girls sitting there went to that church, and it kind of like hit them like, wait a minute,
Right.
this happened this close to home. And
Right.
so the reality of it was too, like you said, that's to me the worst it can go. But the fact, like you said, they use a friend. Like, be leery of me. Be careful. You have to be careful of kind of who your friends are, and
Yes.
what they're asking you to do, and
Yeah,
situations they're asking you to be a part of.
absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I want to transition to online dating
Mhm.
and just the safety around that. Um, as many people know who if you've been watching the program for the last few weeks, I have signed up for several dating sites, and I mean, some of them are just, trash or whatever, but like, I'm not going to name any names, but I've subsequently, canceled those subscriptions. But I'm on one still, and um, I am wanting to talk about safety around that. What should you do? What shouldn't you do? Those types of things, Lori, because this is a very popular way to meet people, and a lot of people meet very healthy people and happy, and they have good marriages and all of that. But a lot of people don't, and so I want to make sure that we're making the right decisions and just kind of understanding how we should vet this process a little bit differently.
I think the biggest thing is being very aware that you're meeting strangers. It's so easy. We see a picture of
It is.
somebody. It may not even be their picture, or it may be 10 years old, and that is not who they are anymore. I mean, I think we've all gotten that friend request on Facebook, the guy that's like a Navy admiral or something. But then when you actually look at his profile, there's only 2 posts. How
Yep.
many people only have 2 posts? That's a fake profile.
I've gotten about, honestly, in the last 6 months, even before I got online, I've gotten about one, two, three, four, about 5 or 6
Yeah.
different, and like 3 of them are like military guys. I'm like, okay, come on. And the other one was like, he was worked in an oil rig in the Mediterranean Sea, and so okay, all right, because I've had that several years ago. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's possible. But yeah, help me understand what this is about. Like,
A lot of those, believe it or not, they're looking to take your money.
Mm-hmm.
So they
yeah,
call him Romeo
they getting
scam.
on the wrong woman. Because I would try to take their money because I don't got none.
That's good. I like that. But if he can get $1,000 out of you, and he's doing
Yep.
this to 20 women,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
got to think about stuff like that. I would go into them. I'm not saying they're bad things to do at all, but I would go in slightly skeptical, and just remind myself, this person's a stranger, even though I see their picture, I read their little bio. And, when you get matched with them, you got to remember this is a computer matching you, and computers can only do so much. I remember when I was in high school, one of our guys that I think he owns a very lucrative computer business now, but they came up for a project for school where we all filled out these little forms and they matched you with people. And one of my matches was my cousin. So you just have to realize that these things are not foolproof. They didn't ask us to put who we were related to, so they would get that subset out of there. But again, the algorithm, they're picking something, and they're not looking at, does this person have character? They're not checking to see if this is a fake profile. They're not doing any of that. They're just taking that person at their word and then matching them together with you. So a match is just a starting point. I don't even like it that they call them matches. It should be hey, if this person isn't a creep, you might get along.
Mhm.
It'd be better if they called it that, but that's a little wordy.
Mhm.
So, once you do have someone that the computer has said, hey, you guys might be a good couple to date, well, then start checking that person out. And if you don't have the resources to run a whole bunch of background checks, because that can get kind of expensive, you can do your own investigation. Be looking at them on social
Mhm.
media.
Mhm.
Again,
Mhm.
be Googling their name, because if they say, oh, I was a high school athlete back in Wisconsin in the 80s and I won state titles, well, there's going to be newspaper articles about that.
Mhm.
And you better be able to find them. And if you can't, you better figure out why you can't.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
just making sure that what they're telling you is matching up with things that you can independently verify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's really important. The minute they ask you for money, be done. I don't
Yeah.
care how much that you think you like this person, or, they're going to agree with you on everything if they're setting you up for a big ask like that.
Mhm.
So that doesn't mean they're your soulmate. That means they're good at what they do. Con
Mhm.
artists practice. It's their job. They
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
what they can to get better. So the minute they say, oh, I want to fly to where you are and meet you in person, but I can't pay for the tickets, don't be jumping up going, I'll pay for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
their mother's sick and needs an operation. Whatever
Right.
crazy
Right.
story they come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. They come
They,
up with
And
some.
that's for the people in person too that you're dating. That if it's
Mhm.
always a emergency, family emergency, can you cash out me this? Can you loan me that? Can you? Oh, I need to send my daughter here. I need to take my mama there. Oh, my grandma ain't got groceries. It's always ask you. That's not just a red flag. You need to run, Forrest, run.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. My personal policy is I don't give men money.
Yeah.
And because my thing is, what would you have done if you hadn't met me a month ago?
Mhm.
Right.
You
Right.
would have figured it out. So
Right.
even a guy that was legit, we really were dating. He really was real. I really I was introduced through a friend, through mutual friends. And he needed money, and I did not part my lips to offer it because I'm like, he'll figure it out. That's what he'll
Yeah.
do. We ended
Yeah.
up, and his need was legitimate, but I'm just like, he will figure it out, because what I'm not going to do, especially if we end up getting married, is going to be bailing you out all the time. You will
Right.
figure it out. And
Right.
so we ended up breaking up before he figured it out, but he was figuring it out. And I mean, he needed it at a certain time. He didn't need it right then, but he needed it
Right.
at a certain time. But I just think that that's a huge red flag to me. Not even
Mhm.
about it being a scam, which of course it is in many
Yeah.
cases. But even if it's not, that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of our marriage, and I'm
Right.
not interested in that. So
Right.
Just
so
keep telling yourself that some of these guys look at these dating apps and what they're thinking is, this is Cash App.
Mhm. Wow. Wow.
love that.
We get
Okay,
all kind of sob stories. Wow.
tell me. I want to switch to the legal aspect. If you are being stalked, or someone has tried to kidnap you and you got away, what do you do? But particularly stalking, because
Yeah.
usually if they try and you actually get away, they're going to disappear. But if someone's stalking you, what is your legal recourse? What does it actually mean to be stalked? Like, what does that look like?
Every jurisdiction's a little bit different, but I will say that in the last few years, most states have beefed up their anti-stalking laws. And
Mhm.
so generally the idea is that if you have communicated to somebody, I don't want this attention, and
Mhm.
they just keep persisting, I would go to the police. It's always an option to see if you can get whatever your jurisdiction calls it, a restraining order or an order of protection.
Mhm.
And if you do get one of those, tell people. I can't tell you how many times it's come up where they're like, well, yeah, I do have a restraining order. Well, tell me, because I don't know. We had that happen at the church where I'm on the security team.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to get a copy of it. So we knew what this person was allowed to do and not allowed to do, got a picture of this person. But let people in your life know, hey, if you see this person hanging around, or, if somebody starts asking questions about me, please don't answer them. This person does not need to know anything about me, because they will get really tricky. They will call and, oh, I've been trying to get in touch with my cousin. I haven't seen her in so long. They'll come up with something that sounds very innocent.
Right.
Just if you're the person getting that call, say, I don't know you and I'm not telling you anything, and then just hang up. It is okay to hang up on these people. It is.
Yes.
But if you're the person that's being stalked, definitely let people in your circle know to look out for this person, so that if you don't happen to see them come by your house, you can document it. And you do need to document it. Write all these things down. On this date, at this time, they were here. When did they call me? They left a rose on my car for the 15th time. Whatever it is they're doing, document it, and then take that to the authorities. And I would even hire, if you can at all afford it, I would hire a private investigator. A friend of mine who is an excellent investigator, he does a lot of stalking cases, and he's got the expertise that he knows what kind of approach will work in certain instances and won't work in certain instances, because I'm not going to lie and tell you that, just standing up makes them back down. Some of them, it makes them level up.
Right.
The most important thing is keeping you safe.
Yeah.
So if you think you're being stalked, vary your route home, vary your route to school. Don't go to the gym on the same day at the same time constantly, if you can at all help it. I always tell people too, if you think you're being followed, don't go home. Don't go to your best friend's house.
Right.
The mom's house. We don't want them finding other addresses they can associate with you. So if you think you're being followed, drive to the nearest police station, if you know where it is, or an emergency room, a fire department. If you can't find one of those, go to any place that's well lit, a big Walmart, a CVS, just anywhere. Get as close to that business's door as you can, and then just lay on the horn. People are going to come out. They're going to say, what's all this commotion? And that person does not want that attention. They don't want other people seeing what they're doing.
Lori, can I add one more thing about that too? Because I'm very particular about family bringing a newly dated person to my house too. Like if you're dating somebody, you're still getting to know them, stop taking them to all your family members' houses and all of your favorite to do things, because if you break up and you don't know this person, Martin Lawrence used to say crazy and deranged. Now you have no escape place. Like you can't go to hide at your sister's, because you brought them to your sister's house. You've taken them to your mom's. You told them everything about the family, and you taken them everywhere. It's like, where can you go and hide?
Right.
Don't tell them your passwords. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Because what can happen, I have seen this, they will get to your accounts and lock you out.
Yep.
They'll start changing all the passwords. Now they have control of all of your accounts. So, no matter how convenient he tries to tell you it is to be able to get into each other's stuff.
No, that's not convenient for me, bro. But I'm like, so I don't need that level of convenience. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
But they do it, but they do it, and people think, for the sake of love. Well, if you trust me, I should be able to. And I'm not saying you're 3-4 years in a relationship, but I'm saying you're still really getting to know this person. You think you're madly in love, and they're doing that, and they're locking them out. Not only that, they may even go and send their cash app, themselves all your money. They've locked you out of everything. So you have to be very careful about this stuff.
There's a wonderful service called Safe Haven. You can look that up online. If you're in a relationship and you have shared passwords, you have done things, and you do get locked out, or if you're just trying to get away and maybe your finances have been commingled. He sees everything you're doing. This is a digital lockbox. You can put money, digital money in it. You can make deposits via, you can put copies of important documents. You know, if someone is saying, well, I've got your birth certificate, I got your social security card, I got all this stuff, you can't leave me. You can put copies of anything like that in this digital lockbox so that you'll have some resources when it comes time for you to be able to get away safely. So just little shout out to Safe Haven Services.
Awesome. Because you'll find people too that are not necessarily being stalked, but people getting out of an abusive relationship
Yes.
that
Yes.
will need this.
Yeah, for sure.
And even in church, because some of them are not physical, but they've been financially controlled all of the relationship.
Yes. And you know, you mentioned church, and I'm not trying to dog churches. I'm not, because most of them do a wonderful job of loving on their people. And sometimes just through ignorance, they might give not such great advice. So, and I'm not trying to push any particular doctrine either about the roles of men and women and everything. But if you're a church leader, we need to be really, really careful of telling women, you know, well, you've got to hang in there. You've got to do this. You've got to do that.
Yeah.
If you are physically unsafe,
Yes.
you can leave.
Yes.
If you're being coerced mentally, emotionally, financially, like you mentioned, you can leave. I'm going to make the bold statement that I do believe that marriage is a covenant, and I do believe that it should be preserved at not all costs, but at all reasonable measures should be taken to preserve that marriage.
Yes.
But if someone is treating you in such a way that it's rising to criminal,
Yeah.
emotional abuse, all that kind of stuff, those things are criminal.
Yeah.
That person has violated that covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure you maybe even ever had a true covenantal relationship. And so, again, I don't want to step on toes here, but if you're told, you know, just pray a little harder.
Yeah, you're not stepping on my toes. We're in line with you.
Yeah, we're all
to a woman had come to her for help. She had been sexually assaulted by her husband, and yes, that is a thing.
Yeah.
You can't say no. It was right after the birth of their child. She was not physically supposed to be engaging that kind of behavior. He couldn't take no for an answer, wouldn't take no for an answer, I should say. And when she went to her church for help, they said, well, you know, maybe you should make your needs more clear to him. They're putting the onus on her.
Right.
Instead of counseling him to, hey, we don't rape our wives.
Right.
Just call it what it is, and we don't do that.
Call it what it is.
So
no, I'm in 100% alignment with you.
Yeah.
I do believe that abuse is definitely a reason to separate from that marriage, and not just physical abuse. And I do, it does pain me that so many churches turn a blind eye.
yes.
There's a lot of stuff that happened, and it's like, oh, you didn't know? Yeah, you did know. You knew. And you know, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I know there's a situation where I'm at that, and I'm like, yeah, people know. And so I was just like, well, what do we do now? So as we wrap up here, I know we could ask you 1,000 other questions, but I just wanted to ask you if you could recommend any community resources or organizations that individuals can turn to, you know, for support or assistance in cases where, you know, related to stalking or trafficking or just even just dating safety. They may feel like, I need some help. So what do you think? What are your thoughts?
A really good resource available on Amazon. I mentioned my investigator friend who does a lot of stalking cases. He wrote a book called Think Like a Stalker and Stop Them. And his name's Michael Kenney, Kenney. And he goes through, that's where I got the tip that, if you answer the 51st time, you've trained them that that's all they have to do is call that many times. So he has tons of practical tips in the book. And, even if you don't think you're being stalked, I think it's worth reading, because not only might you be able to notice that behavior ahead of time, you might be able to notice it in the life of someone you're close to. And say, hey, I'm seeing some troubling behaviors by this person that's in your life. And that's hard. I know that's hard. So, sometimes what we just need to do is say, hey, I just want you to know that if you've got anything that's ever weighing on you, I'm a safe person. I will listen to you. I won't judge you. And if you want me to, I'll try to help you. Just be gentle, because they don't want someone coming in saying, I know this, you're making this mistake, I want you to do that. So you have to earn the right to be invited in to whatever their problem is. And, if you're looking for more resources, Google's just the greatest thing ever. And so there's a million out there. I can't think of them all, but just type in domestic abuse help. There is a national domestic abuse hotline that will pop up, I'm sure. Type in stalking help. There will be organizations that are there. Online dating tips. Type that in and you'll get tons more things. So, take advantage of that. And even if you're not in a dating relationship right now, go ahead and look those things up. I think being prepared ahead of time is so critical and will head off so many problems.
Yes, totally agree with that. I just dropped a link in the chat of Think Like a Stalker. And also this is Lori's book, Kick Fear to the Curb. She's got 10 tips in there that I think would be very useful for all of us. And then, of course, it'll lead you to all her other books. Well, thank you so much, Lori. We really appreciate this conversation.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, we actually have our backstage Afterwise link in the chat right now. If you want to join us backstage after we end the broadcast, we're going to talk to Lori just a little while longer. And if there's any other questions but if you want to join us, you can hit that link in the comments there and you can ask her yourself. So that would be cool. We're not going to keep her too late, but if you have, and I'm just going to actually put that in the chat again here. If you are interested in joining us backstage, that's the wrong link. Don't use that link. So that is the wrong link. The right link is at the top of the chat. So, in fact, let me highlight it so it's there. All right, Lori, thank you so much. We
Yes, thank you.
This has been fantastic, as I knew it would be. And I'm so happy that you are on the job helping women, helping men, helping people to be safer, both inside the church and outside of the church. So thank you so much. And we will see you shortly.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Onita.
Wow. Mind blown.
Good stuff, right?
Yes, I took so many notes. Lord have mercy. I'm about to text all this out.
I know you are. Well, friends, we really, our whole goal is to help you live, love, and marry wiser. And part of that is just safety. We live in a world of sin, and there are people who are always out to do evil. We want you to be safe in making your dating choices. We want you to be attentive at looking at those red flags. Remember, when you're dating, you are collecting data. And if the data says this person is unsafe, if the data says this person is untrustworthy, if the data says this person is controlling, then you need to get out of that situation. You don't need to pass go. You don't need to collect $200. You need to get out. And so we see so many women who think, I can save him, I can change him, or I can't be without him. And regrettably, And we just had a situation on the news maybe a few weeks ago where the man killed a woman because she wouldn't just go out with him. And so we are vulnerable in the sense of we are generally the targets of crime, but with tools like what Lori has shared with us, with her book, with the this Michael Kenny's book, we can learn how to kick fear to the curb and have the tools that we need in order to be safer. So with that being said, again, if you want to join us backstage, please hit the link that is here in the beginning of the comments. And I'm just going to read this one scripture here that it says, Matthew 10:16 says, "Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves."
Amen.
We shouldn't be doing wrong to other people, but we should be wise about what is potentially happening to us. Jesus, these words are the words of Jesus. And so let us, as we are proceeding in our dating and our relationships and just in life, let us be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We are so grateful for you to be here. And let me just give you an update on last week real quick. We knew a lot of you were here waiting for that live episode. It's going to be awesome. It obviously wasn't live. We had so many technical difficulties, but I saw like some clips from it today and it's looking good. And we hope to have the recording out to you as soon as possible. So we look forward to you being able to consume that episode because it was fantastic. So with that being said, Onita, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And I will, let me see. Got something. Until next time. See our new mugs? Until next time. Make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless you.
Good night.